5:15 right here on the game. And, of course, because it's the third game of the day, depending on how long the other two games for them take, that first pitch could come anywhere between 5:30 and sometime after 6 o'clock. So, we'll see how the rest of the day pans out. But it's been a fun SEC tournament so far, and, for South Carolina, especially fun. We go back to that Alabama win 2 days ago, and that was huge because it took the worry out of things a little bit, right? We felt okay about South Carolina's chances to make it into the tournament, but we weren't completely sold on it. You wanted to get at least one win in Hoover to make you feel comfortable that no matter what happened after that, you were going to be in. And South Carolina got that convincingly against Alabama the other day, and that meant that everything past that this week was just kind of going to be, icing on the cake. And when you look at this matchup, Arkansas, second in the RPI, top 10 in all the rankings across the board. If you lost to them yesterday, you never want to lose, obviously, but it's not the end of the world, and you got that one valuable win that you needed to make yourself feel comfortable. But here's the thing. They didn't lose. They stepped up and they beat a very good Arkansas team. And when you get into these tournament settings, whether it be the SEC tournament, the NCAA tournament, whatever it may be, big players step up in big moments. And Cole Messina proved, if you didn't already believe it, once again yesterday, that he is none other than a big-time player. Now, that is a very good Arkansas pitching staff. One of the best in the SEC. That, yes, you did avoid having to go up against, Hagen Smith, who, again, is probably going to be the first overall pick or one of the first overall picks in the upcoming draft here very, very soon. So you definitely dodged a bullet. But you still had a very capable pitching staff there for Arkansas that, had the ability to limit South Carolina. And for the most part, they did. I mean, when you look at the overall numbers yesterday, they gave up 8 hits. Only, 3 of those were not to, only 5 of those were not to Cole Messina. And so nobody else had more than one hit in the entire game. It's just Messina stepping up yesterday to, kind of be the driving force of what South Carolina needed offensively to be able to get by the Razorbacks by a score of 6-5. And that all culminated in the top of the 9th inning. Hit cut number 2 for me here, Dave.
Definitely get his swings.
He gives one a ride to deep center. Back goes Holt at the wall. He'll leap. It's out of here. Cole Messina does it again. First pitch, breaking ball, and Messina has himself a 2-home-run game. That one 104 miles an hour off the bat, and it traveled 419 feet. Cole Messina's third big fly in Hoover.
That was what they needed to get past the Razorbacks tied 4-4 at the top of the 9th inning, and then that put them ahead 6-4. Razorbacks got one more run in the bottom of the 9th, and we'll get to that in just a moment, but it was enough to propel them again today, number 3 in the winner's bracket. And it's so funny. This team, last weekend at Lindsey Nelson Stadium in Knoxville, a notorious hitter's park, Carolina could not find a way to get any of those balls over the fence, and yet they make the move to Hoover a couple days later, and suddenly they're hitting home runs left and right at a much, much harder park to hit home runs in. But Cole Messina has been the straw that stirs the drink for this offense so far for the first 2 days of the SEC tournament in that hard park to hit. He has given 3 baseballs a ride to the other side of the fence, sitting at 6 of 8 overall so far this week. 8 RBIs, 3 home runs in just 2 games. I don't know what the rest of the weekend's going to hold across the board in the SEC tournament, but if you're talking about players of the tournament so far, Cole Messina, if he's not at the top of your list, he has very well got to be in the mix for consideration because he's had truly a truly stellar performance so far. And, if he continues to play like this, then nothing's impossible when it comes to what South Carolina can do against the rest of the teams that they're going to have to go up against over the course of the rest of the weekend. Let's hear a little bit from Coach Kingston, cut number 7 here, Dave, about, Cole Messina and if he's doing anything differently right now that's leading to his success.
Well, I think, his mechanics, when he has his hands high and he has that, he's got some movements that need to be synced up properly. And when they are, he's as good as any hitter in the country. And right now, he's completely synced up. His timing is where it needs to be. And when he does that, his swing is in the zone for a long time, which is exactly what allows what he was just talking about. He was looking fastball. He got the slider. But because his bat is in the zone for so long, when he's swinging the right way, it allows you to be back here for the fastball and still be on plane for the slider when it's hung. And so that's why it looks like a guy sitting on a breaking ball, but when you have a good swing that's in the zone a long time, it can cover the fastball and the slider.
And save for the UGA series, Messina's been hitting fine down the stretch. But what he's doing this week is obviously next level. Now look, you do want the other guys around you on the offense in the 1 through 9 to be hitting as well, particularly Ethan Petry, as we've talked about many times this season. When Petry and Messina are combining for good numbers, and usually in weekend series, that usually translates to winning. And Petry had a little bit of a rough day yesterday, striking out 4 times. You could see the frustration with him as the game went along. But Carolina yesterday just needed one hero on offense, and that turned out to be Cole Messina. And again, an incredible game that hopefully he can get that momentum going into today's matchup with LSU. Pitching was once again a headline, this time for the second day in a row, for a very, very positive reason. That all centered around Garrett Gainey. Let's go cut number 12 here, Dave.
I mean, I pretty much knew I was getting the ball today. I knew we were going to have a good chance of winning, especially taking that early lead and then taking that lead 4-2. I think it was the 6th inning. Especially like late in the game like that, I knew I could get the ball. So being able to just focus in the bullpen and try to think about my bullpen as a game type situation and get ready for the game.
We know Garrett Gainey is the best pitcher on this staff. Has been for a while. And yesterday got his number called once again and delivered once again. We, heard from Coach Kingston prior to the tournament starting. It was going to be that all hands on deck type of approach when it came to how they handled their pitching staff. And, you could have theoretically used him in game number 1, but you had a comfortable enough lead where that wasn't necessary, which preserved. And again, Chris Veach was dealing out there on Monday. So you didn't have to use him. On Tuesday. You didn't have to use him on Tuesday, and that allowed you the possibility to bring him in today, or bring him in yesterday, And again, when you're tied at, you had the 4-2 lead at that point in time, and that's a tough situation to come in, by the way, because it comes in the 7th inning where Good and look, Jones and Good had done a fine job through those first couple of innings, but Good started to slip a little bit, allowed 2 runners on with no outs. And that's tough for anybody to come into and try and get a handle on the situation. You did have 2 runs that did get across the plate, but those runs are on Ty Good, not Garrett Gainey. But Garrett Gainey was able to come in, able to mitigate the damage, get things back under control. And there was a situation in the 9th where things did look a little bit bleak, gave up 1 run. You had 2 guys on and 1 out, but Mark Kingston had the utmost faith in Garrett Gainey to be able to get himself out of that situation to the point where he didn't even have anybody warming up in the bullpen, just in case things went sideways. One more cut here, cut number 6, Dave. This is Coach Kingston talking about his confidence in Garrett Gainey in that 9th inning.
No, once we went out there for the 9th inning with the 2-run lead, we said we're going to ride or die here. He's earned that right. He's been one of our best guys. We've talked about it. He didn't get the last out in that inning at Tennessee last week, but there's certain guys you're willing to ride or die with, and he's one of them. And we were going to win or lose in the 9th inning with him on the mound. There was no reason to get anybody else up, and he came through.
And he absolutely did. And again, Garrett Gainey is truly your best pitcher on the staff as of right now. And yes, theoretically, he could have been in line to start today if you didn't use him yesterday. But we've talked about it with this week, especially going in knowing that South Carolina needed to win at least that one game to feel comfortable about where they stood as far as the NCAA tournament. You had to approach every single game like there was no tomorrow. You know what I mean? And again, in game number 1, Chris Veach pitches over half the game. And, takes a lot of the worry out of your hands on how many pitchers you were going to use in that game. Yesterday, okay, you have this 4-2 lead over one of the best teams in the country. you got to bring in somebody that's going to limit the damage and is going to be able to control things for those last couple of innings. Would you have loved to have had Garrett Gainey available to start today against LSU? Absolutely. But he's one of the big reasons why you won that game yesterday, to even be in position to play this game today against LSU. And I saw some people that were upset about it on Twitter, tweeting at our friend Jack Felcher from Gamecock Central, like, I can't believe they didn't save Garrett Gainey for a start. Like, no, you needed him in that situation. He was perfect for the situation that you brought him in. And that was what he was doing early on in the season before he got into the starting role later on in the year. He was a guy that you brought in those last couple of innings to lock things down and preserve the win. And that's exactly what you were able to do. Exactly what you were able to do yesterday. So, he's going to be an important part of how successful this team's going to be in the NCAA tournament, wherever they get sent in a regional coming up next week. Where I imagine he's probably going to start one of the games, or if you're in another scenario like this, because it's again in a tournament setting, you lose two, you're gone, where you may bring him in at the end of that first game or something like that if you think you're in a situation where you can win that game and just need somebody to lock things down. So another great performance by Garrett Gainey. And again, Ty Good and Eli Jones did a solid job through their first couple of innings of work there. It didn't get completely sideways on them. And again, Garrett Gainey was able to come in and lock things down. Now you turn your attention to a very good LSU team. Again, first pitch coming up sometime around 5:30 today. Pregame coverage will start at 5:15 right here on the game. And, if you win this game, you're just only improving on that resume. If you lose this game, bounce yourself down in the loser's bracket, not the end of the world. Winning 2 games, again, something that South Carolina's not done a whole lot of in their history in the SEC tournament. First time in a very long time, I believe since 2004, that they have done that. Like I said, everything else is just kind of gravy at this point, that you're just potentially helping your seeding out for whatever regional you do end up getting sent to coming up next week. We'll check in as we do each and every day. I believe we're now on a full week of Jack Felcher appearing on the show every single day. So we'll get his latest thoughts from Hoover on what happened yesterday between South Carolina and Arkansas, and I'll start to look ahead to this series against LSU as well. It is the Extra Point Towerhead along with you on your Thursday, getting you set for more Gamecock baseball. Again, taking on LSU later on this afternoon here on the game.
Great ball game. Again, two of the best teams in the country, in my opinion. Could have gone either way, but this guy closed it out at the end. Cole drove in 5 of our 6 runs, and so that's the team I think we're capable of being on any given day, and we beat one of the best teams in the country. So, again, it's just something we'll continue to build on.
All right, there.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head along with you here on this Thursday morning, reacting to what we saw yesterday in round 2 of the SEC tournament. Gamecocks picking up the 6-5 victory over the Arkansas Razorbacks, advancing to the 3rd round today, taking on LSU. First pitch around 5:30. Pregame coverage starting here at 5:15. As we've done each and every day this week, we check in with our buddy Jack Feltry from Gamecock Central, who was live out there in Hoover, and that was a clip from Coach Kingston talking at the beginning of his presser yesterday, and seems like everybody's feeling good about this team inside the locker room. Jack, covering this team each and every day, what sense have you gotten of maybe more confidence that this team has had this week?
Yeah, first off, thank you for having me on as always. But, yeah, I definitely think that there's a mood change with this team. I think things are feeling a lot better. The big thing I say is, go back and watch, like if you're listening, go back and watch a video, I think on Twitter. It's all over there, but just the reaction to Cole Messina's home run in the 9th inning, and that dugout went absolutely bananas. I don't think I've seen a crazier dugout from South Carolina this year, and those guys are having a lot of fun right now. You can see that they're really into it, and that's what winning does. Look, that losing streak they just went on, I think it was tough to watch. The players were just definitely, doom and gloom, I guess you could say. Although, it's tough to find ways to, find joy during a losing streak. But now that they've got a few wins, they're playing well in a tournament where they normally don't have much success, I think things are really going well for this team right now.
I was going to say, what was more fun, seeing the dugout reaction to that home run in the 9th inning, or seeing Garrett Gainey's celebration after the last out at the end of the game?
Oh, gosh. I don't know if I could pick one. I'll say the home run with Messina, the interesting thing about that is I think it was earlier in the game. It was either the 5th or 6th inning. So apologies if I don't have the exact moment correct. It was the 5th. So Blake Jackson gets hit by a pitch in the 5th inning, and then 2 pitches later, Messina homers to dead center field. Coincidentally enough, 9th inning, Blake Jackson gets hit again by a pitch. And then Messina hits a homer to the exact same spot. And it's crazy. In my head, I'm like, there's no way this is real. But I think that was probably crazy.
So you're telling me Kingston's going to tell Jackson to lean into every pitch today, right?
I guess so. The more the merrier with guys on base. So,
Cole Messina, we obviously know how good he is. Preseason All-American. He's going to be playing at the next level here very soon. And he is a guy that should emerge in big moments. But what a fantastic week he's had so far.
Oh, man, he's been unbelievable. And, I think it's an interesting discussion to have, because I think Kingston kind of talked about it yesterday, is that, when Messina's playing well, everyone else is hitting well around him. It's like, I don't know. I think, they win. I think Kingston said they win about 90% of the games when Messina has a good night. And when he doesn't, the guys tend to struggle. That's a little, it's definitely true in my opinion. But it's also a little concerning because, I don't want to say that it's going to happen or anything, but, you have to assume at some point Messina is going to have one of those nights where it's just he strikes out a few times and nothing's working for him. That's baseball. That's just the fact of the matter. Now, how does everyone else do around him? That's what kind of worries me, especially as we enter these win-or-go-home type of games. And, look, Messina's been great, but baseball, you're going to fail more times than you succeed. So I'm just wondering, how is everyone else going to do around him if there's a game where he doesn't have a big day? And I think tonight's going to be a real testament to that point, and we'll see what happens. But I definitely think some guys need to step up. Kennedy Jones, I think, is a name that I'd be looking for to have a night. He's just been atrocious lately. And, there's other guys, too, that have been struggling, but you definitely want the guys around Messina to help out and get the job done.
Again, talking to Jack Feldshire from Gamecock Central, live from Hoover at the SEC tournament. I'm going to be very interested to see today if LSU's even going to want to pitch to Cole Messina. I mean, it comes to a point where you're like, dude, this guy's on fire. We're not going to give him any more than we have to. Let's just give him a free pass and put him on base.
Yeah, we want to talk about guys like, over the last month or so, I've seen some insanely good players. Jack Caglione from Florida, unbelievable. That's going to be the next Shohei Ohtani in terms of what he can do maybe at the pro level. I don't know. Then you got Charlie Condon, one of the insanely best hitters in this game, and you can't pitch around a guy that's hitting 459 with 34 homers. That's impossible. And then you get Christian Moore from Tennessee, who I didn't even know was on the same level, and he homers, I think, 3 times against South Carolina. So I think Messina's right in that conversation of guys that you do not want to pitch to. And, I mean, look, Moose has homered 3 times this week. He's driven in way too many runs to even remember how many at this point. But he's insane right now. And it's I think it would be a smart strategy to not pitch to him. If there's a base open, just walk him. But, maybe LSU shouldn't listen to this and decide to just pitch to him. So I think that would be more entertaining.
I don't think LSU listens to Gamecock Sports Radio to scout their opponent the day of the game. So I think we're good.
I think so, but you never know. But, I definitely think pitching to Messina is not exactly the wisest decision right now. But, I mean, at some point you're going to have to, right? I mean, if the first 3 guys in South Carolina's lineup get on base today, you're going to have to pitch to them, unless you want to do a Barry Bonds type of thing where you're walking him with the bases loaded.
Speaking of pitching, switching things over now, Garrett Gainey gets to come in the 7th inning ahead, 4-2. 2 runners get put on by Ty Good. There are no outs. I couldn't think of a more perfect situation to trust Garrett Gainey with. And yes, those runners did end up coming across the plate. Those were charged to Garrett Gainey, and things did get a little bit squirrely there in the 9th inning, but he was able to hold on and help South Carolina secure that win. And when we talk about Coach Kingston's game plan of going into the week, of having all hands on deck and doing whatever you can to win each and every game, that played out perfectly yesterday for them.
Yeah, and we want to talk about Kingston, saving guys like Chris Veach is the example that comes to mind in my head. Over the weekend in Knoxville, when he, could have used him in a big spot after Gainey pitched with a 1-run deficit, and he didn't use him. And, it was curious that he saved, Veach for the finals 3 to 6 outs in a game that you really needed to have. And it was very refreshing to see that he was not wasting any time yesterday. He was going to use Gainey if the moment called for him, and I think it was the right move. Obviously, the runs on his line, I think for the most part, were charged to Good in that 7th inning. But after that, I mean, he was fantastic. I mean, he got into some trouble in the 9th, but there's no one on this team that can get in and out of jams. Obviously, Chris Beach is the other, but it's a 1A, 1B type of scenario where, you can count on Gainey to also work, through multiple jams.
Last one for you here. They match up with LSU today. Again, first pitch coming around 5:30 here in our local time. This is an LSU team that has had an up-and-down season, but they are red hot right now through the first 2 days of the tournament. Is South Carolina ready for a team like this?
I think so. I think at this point, if you've made it this far in the tournament, I mean, what's stopping you now? If you win today, I think you go for it all and try to win this whole tournament. Look, LSU is going to be a tough task. Tommy White, Jared Jones, the obvious one, Mr. Michael Braswell, former South Carolina Gamecock Michael Braswell. There's going to be a lot of heat today, I think. And look, I think South Carolina's kind of lucking out with the fact that you're not facing one of LSU's 2 best starting pitchers. You're facing Thatcher Hurd today, but at the same time, this is the same guy who, while he's struggling right now, did pitch 6 innings of 2-run ball in the College World Series clincher last year. So who's to say he doesn't have a big day? Who knows? But it's going to be a challenge, as always. I definitely think South Carolina's ready for that challenge. But again, the big thing for me is who's going to hit around Messina. If you get some knocks and get some runs from other guys, other contributors on this team, you have a good chance of winning today, in my opinion.
Well, certainly looking forward to it. It's been a fun week so far. And again, all this stuff's just kind of adding to South Carolina's resume at this point. So hoping for the best today. And you've set the record, I think, for most consecutive days of guests calling in. So we'll continue to shatter that record tomorrow.
Absolutely. Let's do it. That sounds good with me. I'll see you tomorrow, buddy. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right. Appreciate it as always, Jack. Jack Veltri live out at Hoover, getting set for another day of the SEC tournament. Again, Gamecocks and Tigers today around 5:30. Pregame coverage starting at 5:15 here on The Game. Quick reminder, you can always listen to us on The Game TV, sponsored by Integrated Media and powered by our friends at Shepherd's Glass as well. Just go on youtube.com, search Game TV, watch us all day long. Also check us out on the 107.5 Game app. Download it at the Apple App Store or Google Play Store. Take us with you wherever you go. We'll continue to break down this matchup with LSU. Let you hear from Coach Jay Johnson of the LSU Tigers and his thoughts heading into this matchup today. Coming up next, it's the Extra Point. Tyler Head along with you here on this Thursday on The Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head with you on this Thursday. Appreciate our friends, as always, from Georgia Pacific for our Talking Hardwood segment. And going to focus in on the LSU Tigers, who the Gamecocks get set to play later on this afternoon in another round of the SEC tournament. LSU is such an interesting animal. You know, this was a team that obviously won the Natty a season ago. Had great talents like Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens that went very high in the draft. You're obviously seeing what Paul Skeens is done already at the major league level with Pittsburgh Pirates. So you kind of knew there was going to be a little bit of a drop-off to go from a great season like that with the great caliber of talent that they had a year ago to transitioning to the next season. There was going to be, you know, some kind of difference between the two teams. I don't think we expected them to fall off as hard as they did, at least to start the season. They lost their first 5 SEC series, including getting swept in 2 of those by Arkansas and Tennessee. There was a period of time early on in the season where we thought that LSU might be in danger of missing the SEC tournament altogether because, at least for up to this year, the final iteration of the 14-team SEC tournament, the bottom 2 teams don't go. This year that happened to be Auburn and Missouri. Next year will be 16 teams, and there'll be single elimination and teams getting byes, and that's a whole another story for a whole nother day. But we seriously thought that LSU might be the team or one of the 2 teams that gets left out when Hoover rolled around. And then they started putting it together. The back half of their SEC slate, they won 4 of their last 5 conference series, including a sweep of Ole Miss in the last weekend of the regular season that they used as a momentum swing into playing in Hoover this week. Let's go to cut number 16 here, Dave. This is LSU head coach Jay Johnson on his team really playing its best baseball right now.
Yeah, I believed in our team. I think, last summer was critical. I mean, you look at just the last 2 days. We won the national championship on Monday night, and we had a celebration and all that. And Saturday I was with him in North Carolina, and then 2 days later, I was in California with Gage, like knowing what we needed to do to retool to have this type of team. And I believed with those 2, like, we're going to be one of the best teams in the country. Now, on the position player side, it took a lot of retooling. I mean, again, I'll say it again. Last year, it's one of the best offenses in modern college baseball history, with a lot of guys that had a lot of at-bats under their belt. I mean, Tommy is really the only one that played wire to wire. And then the schedule that we had, I mean, like, it's the real deal. That's win number 20 against top 45 RPI teams. There's 5 or 6, maybe 7 teams in the country that have that. So that didn't do us any favors as that group was trying to find its way in SEC play. And so, we pushed them hard, tried to get through that, and then it got to the point where we just like, hey, no matter what happens, we're going to remain positive, because I did believe in our team. And the double-edged sword of the league is it's so good, you kind of always have a chance if you just stay with it. And that's what these guys did, and we're playing better than anybody right now.
And look, LSU's a program that just historically you can never count out. And Tara and I were talking about this earlier. This is a team that, not to say that some teams don't take Hoover seriously, but, there are some teams, especially based on where you're already sitting for your postseason aspirations, may not have the greatest sense of urgency when it comes to playing in Hoover. LSU's a different story. Even when they have great years, they are always hyper-focused on trying to get through, Hoover and trying to come away with the trophy. And this year, that took on an even greater importance because, again, they're one of those teams kind of in that middle ground of the SEC trying to position themselves for the postseason. And they, like South Carolina, wanted to come into Hoover, put a couple wins together to solidify themselves in the NCAA tournament, and obviously they've done so in convincing fashion through the first 2 games, beating Georgia and Kentucky by a combined score of 20-1 through the first 2 games. Luke Holman had a no-hitter going through 6 innings yesterday in that game against Kentucky. Now had to get pulled, obviously, because of the pitch count, but the offense is absolutely on fire. They hit 2 grand slams yesterday, which, by the way, no team in the history of the SEC tournament has hit multiple grand slams in the tournament, like over the course of the week. They did it twice in one game. truly, truly remarkable baseball that they're playing right now. Offense clicking, and that all starts with a very familiar name. You heard Jack Belcher allude to him a little bit earlier on in the show, that being Michael Braswell, who transferred from South Carolina at the end of last season to go down to Baton Rouge. And go cut number 17 here, Dave. Here's Coach Johnson talking about what Braswell has meant to this offense this season.
Yeah, I think Michael's had a terrific year offensively for us. I'm really proud of him. You know, we made a lot of adjustments, you know, when he transferred here, and he had a good fall. It just took him some time, you know, again, to work through some of those things. But I thought he was taking a bunch of quality at bats, and I love the energy he plays with. You know, I mean, we brought him here basically because I just liked the way that he played. Like, that was the whole impetus of it. You know, sometimes you're looking at analytics and stats and those types of things. I just love the way that he played. And the whole design is just, you know, get somebody on base in front of the big boys. Well, I mean, he's now got 500-plus college at-bats under his belt. And so he's doing a great job of getting on base, and he's hitting mistakes, and he's done a nice job with his body. So he's hitting the ball with some authority, as we saw today, and just playing with a ton of confidence. And that's what you want out of a table setter.
And I know a lot of you out there listening are still not thrilled with Michael Braswell deciding to leave. And, you know, he did have the comment that he made a while back about wanting to play for a winning program that obviously is a direct shot at South Carolina. And again, for a lot of the season, LSU was scuffling, but they've turned it on as of late. And Michael Braswell is a big part of that. And he's somebody that you're going to have to deal with if you want to win today. Now, he was moved into the leadoff spot with their final regular season series against Ole Miss and has been hitting well since then on a 9-game hitting streak as of right now. 4 of 9 so far in the tournament with 3 RBIs. So he's giving you a lot of production at the top of that lineup. Also going to have to deal with Tommy White. He's one of the guys that hit one of the grand slams yesterday for LSU, and if that name sounds familiar, he hit that walk-off home run in Omaha against Wake Forest to propel LSU to the World Series final against Florida, where they eventually went on to win the entire national championship. And this is the lineup in LSU that just has solid power all the way around. And this is one of those games that, you know, I think if you're South Carolina, if you want to win it, you're going to have to score a lot of runs to do so. I mean, this game could end up being, 14-12 or something high scoring like that, because this is an LSU offense that is perfectly capable of putting a lot of runs on the board. And Tyler Pitzer, who is going to get the start today for South Carolina, going to have the work cut out for him, trying to hold them at bay. Now, again, it's probably going to be an opener situation where he's going 2, maybe 3 innings, depending on how well he is pitching, and then you're dipping into your bullpen at that point. On the flip side of things, you have Thatcher Hurd, who's going to be pitching for LSU. His numbers are interesting. And look, he was somebody that pitched very well in the postseason for them a year ago. He was in the starting role at the beginning of the season. It wasn't going well, giving up a lot of hits, giving up a lot of runs, mainly through non-conference play, but as they started, against the likes of Mississippi State and Florida. And then he got moved into a bullpen role. And then things started to gel a little bit better for him, and being limited on his innings worked has proved pretty well for him, and his last couple of outings have actually been pretty solid. So when you look at his numbers overall, they're not great, but he has been pitching better as of late in that bullpen type of role. But he's going to get the start today for LSU, and pretty similarly, I imagine it's going to be that opener type of role, for him, depending on how good he is pitching. But again, all that coming up at 5:30 today. First pitch scheduled, of course. Again, pregame coverage starting at 5:15 right here on The Game. Reminder, once again as well, the craft beer card is back. You can spend $30 brewery at 12 different craft beer locations. A $360 value, all yours for just $79. You can go to 1075thegame.com and click on the Sweet Deals tab to purchase yourself a craft beer card. I got some of you waiting on the Firehouse Subs text line. We'll get to some of your thoughts in just a moment, as well as take a look at what else is happening around the SEC tournament as we get you set for more Gamecock baseball coming up later today. All right, here on The Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tom Head along with you, wrapping up today's edition of the show. Want to let you know, coming up in the 10 o'clock hour, myself and Wes, we're going to be talking to Torricelli Simpkins, transfer offensive lineman from North Carolina Central, who has joined the Gamecocks this offseason, get his thoughts on coming in here to this South Carolina program and kind of where he stands with everything. Is we're getting close to some workouts starting. In fact, just a couple days, all the football players will be returning to campus after having the month of May for the most part off to start those workouts on Memorial Day, and they'll be running through the summer and obviously into summer fall camp, and then the season starts. And we're actually, believe it or not, we're 100 days away from kickoff. Today is the 100-day mark until things kick off between South Carolina and Old Dominion on August the 31st. So plenty of things to be excited about there, and hopefully it'll be here before we know it. Go out to the Firehouse Ups text line, 803-404-6100. Michael weighing in says, Cole Messina is nominated for the Buster Posey Award. In my opinion, I don't care who the other nominees are. Cole has to be the best catcher. It's hard to argue with that. And when you look at the semifinal list, there's a lot of names on this list. So I don't necessarily know who has the edge as of right now, but when you're looking at Cole Messina and the numbers that he's been able to put up this year, it is there's no denying that he has been a very, very good catcher, one of the best in the entire country, and certainly deserving of taking home an award like the Buster Posey Award, if at all possible. Sitting right now, 329 average on the season. Slugging at 705, on-base percentage of 457. Obviously playing his best baseball right now. Of course, he's hit 19 homers, including those 2 that he hit yesterday, 3 total in the tournament this week. And again, he's just kind of been the catalyst for the offensive success this team has. And yes, that is also due in part to Ethan Petrie, and as Coach Kingston said yesterday, when Petrie and Messina are working, or when Messina is playing well, then the offense as a whole usually is playing well and this team's winning. But when he and Petrie together are playing well, then you really start winning some games there. So hopefully Ethan Petrie can get things back on track today against LSU. And if LSU wants to pitch Cole Messina, which I think there's a very good chance, depending on the situation, that he could be getting some free passes onto first base, because he's just been absolutely on fire right now, and LSU obviously wants to limit the damage he can do to them in today's game. This tournament has been pretty interesting so far from the standpoint of the success of the lower seeds so far through the first 2 days. Looking at this, and yes, Vanderbilt is the only low seed that has won a game so far this week. So you had LSU as the 11, beating the number 6 in Georgia. Of course, Carolina at 10, beating Alabama at 7. Mississippi State at 5 Mississippi State was the other one at 5, taking down Ole Miss at 12. And then Vanderbilt at 8, taking down Florida. Okay, Vanderbilt was a higher seed than Florida, taking down number 9 Florida. And then yesterday, LSU at the 11 again, taking down 3 in Kentucky. Carolina at 10, taking down a number 2 in Arkansas. Vanderbilt at 8, taking down the top seed in Tennessee. And then Mississippi State taking down the number 4 seed in Texas A&M. And that's always a very interesting thing, where you do wonder how seriously some of these teams take it. Not that, like, anybody's going out there trying to lose necessarily, but the way you play your strategy, who you decide to use in certain situations and stuff like that is very interesting, because some of these teams, again, the top 4 seeds that had buys in the first round that didn't play until yesterday, they all know they are in the NCAA tournament. They all know that they're going to be hosting regionals and all that kind of stuff. What happens at the tournament this week doesn't really change that a whole lot. And I'm not saying, again, they're going out there and intentionally not trying their best or not trying to win, but some teams, aren't going to be upset about maybe a couple of extra days rest when it comes to the SEC tournament. But you look at all these lower seeds and the success they're having, particularly when we talk about teams like Vanderbilt, LSU, and South Carolina, who all those teams felt very comfortable about where they were at as far as the NCAA tournament is concerned. In fact, looking back at D1 baseball's projections going into the SEC tournament, Vanderbilt was among the last 4 in. So they definitely felt like they had their backs up against the wall. And I'm just kind of quickly scanning here. I don't know if LSU was even in the projected field at that point in time. Let's see here, because, again, they had such a rough go of it the first half of the season. And no, just kind of by a quick scan here, unless I completely overlooked them, I don't believe LSU was in the latest projections, according to D1 Baseball at least, to be in the NCAA tournament. So they truly feel like they're, oh, excuse me, there it is. They were projected as the 3 seed in the Stillwater Regional. So still, they wanted to solidify themselves a little bit more, much like South Carolina, by putting together a couple wins this week, and they've been able to do that. So both South Carolina and LSU kind of in a similar boat. Both teams know they're solidly in the tournament now, and both teams just kind of trying to improve on what they've been able to do this week so far. So again, that coming up today at 5:30, first pitch scheduled, again, depending on how long the other 2 games take. Before that, 5:15 pregame starting right here on the game, right after the halftime show with Jay and Elijah. That'll do it for today's edition of The Extra Point. Coming up next, it is the Garnet Trust Hour. Myself and Wes Mitchell are going to be talking with Torricelli Simpkins, again, one of the new transfer offensive linemen, one of many that South Carolina has been able to get this offseason via the transfer portal. Excited to hear a little bit about his story, get to know him a little bit off the field, and also get his thoughts on what's happening with this football team. As again, we are 100 days away from kicking things off against Old Dominion on August 31st. And again, blink and you miss it, season will be here before you know it. And certainly excited to hear what Torricelli Simpkins does have to say. That's all coming up next on the Garnet Trust Hour here on The Game. 10 o'clock on your Thursday morning. Welcome in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour here on The Game. Tyler Head and Wes Mitchell, along with you as always. Pleased to be joined today by one of the newer faces to South Carolina football, that being Torricelli Simpkins III. Appreciate you bringing in here. Do we have to include the third? Are you good with just Torricelli? How do you prefer your name to be said?
Torricelli Simpkins III, because my dad and my grandpa, they be getting on me, especially my mom. She'd get on me if not by saying my name right.
Now, do you have the third on the back of your jersey as well?
Yes, sir.
Very cool.
And it's on the bio. I'm looking at it here, so it's official. Torricelli just transferred in. We were talking a little bit off the air, man. You've been here a few months now. You've been getting settled in. You were telling me it sounded like it's been pretty smooth, but for the people out there listening, how has the adjustment just to, Columbia and the University of South Carolina been for you, man?
It's been great. I'm originally from Aiken, South Carolina, then I moved to Charlotte in about the 10th grade, so I'm used to that Southern hospitality. And ever since I've been here, that's all it's been. Everything's been pretty great. Everything's been pretty good. Been a smooth transition coming from Central. Everybody's accepted me, and now they accept me as family, and I accept them as mine.
Yeah, so I guess this is a little bit of a homecoming for you, Aiken, not that far away. Did you grow up watching South Carolina, watching Clemson? Did you grow up watching the in-states? What was that like to come back and play for? I know you're listed as Charlotte hometown, but really you're getting to play for your home state. How has that part been, man?
It's been a dream come true. I've always dreamed about playing at one of those schools, especially growing up in Aiken, South Carolina. We all wanted to come play for these big schools, and me finally getting that chance is just a dream come true. I'm blessed, and I love it.
Now, were you a fan of Carolina or Clemson growing up?
I was a Carolina fan.
Okay.
That's the right answer.
I was going to say, now, if you grew up a Clemson fan and transferred over to Carolina, that's understandable. But you've been on the right track the entire time, it sounds like.
Yeah, my mom, she actually graduated from one of the native schools of South Carolina. So we've always been Gamecocks.
Very cool.
So I guess talk to us about the portal, man. What was that like to enter and then sort of go through a second recruiting process and just obviously I think the South Carolina interest came pretty quick, I guess, but what was it like just to go through that process, kind of take us through it, how it played out behind the scenes and why you ultimately ended up here in Columbia?
Oh, okay. So it was kind of hard to leave those guys back behind because I was their leader and they're a younger group. And my Oline at North Carolina Central, we got a brotherhood up there. Those guys still text me to this day asking, can I help them with this? How is it up there? What new stuff I've learned? And, I'm always happy to help them. So going into that portal, it was really like a tough decision. But I initially made the decision to do that because I felt like I needed a better opportunity to help me get to the next level, and I felt like going into the portal would help me do that.
And how big of a risk is that from your standpoint, especially coming from FCS, where you're maybe not getting talked about as much as some of the guys at the Power 5 level that enter their name in the portal? And again, we got 3,000 some odd guys that enter their name in the portal, so you're taking a big risk of putting your name in there, and maybe nobody picks you up. How confident were you that you were going to have that opportunity to be seen and be picked up by somebody at that higher level?
I was pretty confident because I knew I could play on any level that I put my mind to, because I've been coached hard, I've been coached well, and I've trained, and I know what I can do, and I believe in myself. So me entering the portal, that part, it was just like whoever picks me up, they're going to get a great player. They're going to get somebody that's a family guy that's going to come in and be able to adapt to their culture fast and quick and not cause any problems.
Sorry, go ahead.
The only time I want to cause problems is when I'm on the field against the defense. That's it.
There you go.
Great mindset to have. And so you had several different coaches there. Of course, a couple of guys South Carolina fans are familiar with, Cedric Williams, who played here. And then you were telling me off air, you were coached by Coach Lonnie Teasley, who is now your O-line coach here. How much did just that comfort level with Coach Teasley, obviously it was a great opportunity anyway, come play in the SEC, play for home state school, but I imagine that had to help in terms of feeling good about picking South Carolina. How is your relationship with Coach Teasley and the fact you have a little bit of a background with him to fall back on too?
That was the nail in the coffin, honestly, because having him around after I knew he was a great coach to me my freshman year, because we didn't have a season my freshman year, and he ended up leaving to go here, and like he coached me through that winter. We had like a winter ball, and I felt pretty good being coached by him, and he got me able to play my first ever season. I started the whole season, and he helped me get to that level in order to play. So me knowing that he could coach me while I'm that young, I felt very comfortable coming here and getting coached by him my senior year, so I can make my drive to become the best version of myself, basically. And I really trust him with that, and that helped me make my decision to come here.
And after he left North Carolina Central to come here, what was that relationship between you and him like? How often are you guys communicating back and forth before you decided to ultimately transfer here?
When I left North Carolina Central, he hit me up a couple times. I went on a couple visits before I initially came here and came on a visit. But when I came here to come on a visit, it felt like I needed to be here. It felt like family. It felt like home. So that was just an automatic key, because that's how I made my first decision to go to North Carolina Central. It had felt like home, felt like family there, and that's just mainly what I look for when I look for in a school. And also, they was close to home. My dad's 45 minutes away. My mom's an hour, so not too far now.
Yeah, no doubt. And so you guys finished up spring practice, I guess, about a month ago. What was it like just kind of getting to be out there and compete against some of your defensive line teammates who, are just really good players in their own right, and a lot of upperclassmen on that side of the ball too. So just going up against Tonka and Boogie and TJ, Monkel, DeAndre Jules, all those guys on a day-to-day basis. You hear like iron sharpens iron. Give us a little bit of insight, if you can, on what those battles were like in the spring.
It's really iron sharpens iron. Those guys are really good, and you got to bring your A game every play. You can't take no plays off. If you're going to play against them, you're going to have to bring your A game every time. And that's what I love about playing up here. You're not going to be able to take a play off. If you're going to take a play off, they're going to show you why you can't take a play off. And going against those guys every day just gets me better. And they've even came up and told me that I'm getting them better. And that's what I love to hear, because I don't want to be the guy that's not getting them better because I'm taking a play off or something. I'm going to give them everything I got every play, because that's just how I play. And I'm going to do it at 110%.
Is there anybody on the D-line that you've developed kind of that little, like, almost friendly rivalry? Is there anybody that you just end up matched up with more than anybody else, and y'all kind of just butt heads and really kind of push each other?
I say Jules. Me and Jules go against each other all the time. We went against each other in board drills. 101s, I think we have the most reps against each other, and like it's always a good match. It's never not to be watched. Everybody wants to watch it, and we're gonna put on a show.
I like to ask, especially transfer players that come from Group of Five or FCS competition to South Carolina. Have you had like that definitive, this is the SEC type of moment? Maybe going up against one of those guys in practice or in the spring game or something.
I would say like my first practice, how everything was going, and we didn't have pads on, but we was playing like we had pads on. So, I mean, I'm kind of used to that, because even at the HBCU level, playing with no pads on, we was always hitting, and it's just college. So, I say probably my SEC moment, I'll probably say the board drills, because like me and Jules, like that was like we go against each other all the time. So we both was trying to give it our A game, and I won. Yeah, I won the board drills, but it was definitely a great battle, and I definitely have fun. I love board drills. It's like my favorite drill.
And I know you haven't played in a game just yet. We're 100 days away from kickoff, by the way, from Old Dominion on August 31st. Just what you've seen in practice, what is the difference in skill level that you see with guys at this level compared to what you've played with before?
I'd say the difference in skill level is just everybody's bigger with the same skill level. you get faster guys, but they're bigger. They're like my size, but they can move more quicker lateral and more shiftier than as you would see in HBCU. Like we got a lot of more smaller guys, but they're still quicker. They're still quick also, but you get it with bigger guys as well. And I felt like they're bigger, stronger, but they can put it all together.
Obviously, we're a few months away, man, from you experiencing Williams-Brice, completely full, the light show, all that stuff. But you got a little taste in the spring game. We always have been asking, especially the transfer guys, what their first experience was like with the spring game at Willie B. It's a little taste of what it's going to be like in the fall. So for you personally, how was that to kind of run out the tunnel and experience that atmosphere a little bit?
I guess you could say that this is also my SEC moment, too, because just walking out there, it was only the spring game, and to have that many fans, that many people want your signatures and stuff, like, I didn't even know they knew me, so it's just like they coming up asking me for my signature. They knew my name. I'm just like, wow, that was really a dream come true, entering that type of atmosphere. That atmosphere was great. Like, I couldn't believe how great that atmosphere was, and because I've honestly never been to a Gamecock game. But I've seen it on TV, and then the waving the white
Sandstorm
is great. I love that part as well. It's just like, how can you not have the most amount of energy coming and playing in front of that?
I'm looking at the schedule from North Carolina Central the past couple seasons. Y'all have gotten to play some pretty notable teams. Went on the road to UCLA a season ago, going back a couple years now. What are some of the bigger atmospheres that you've gotten the opportunity to be in, and how's that compare to what you've seen so far here at South Carolina?
I would say the UCLA game, the atmosphere wasn't as big as you would think it was. Their fans was a lot of there, but a lot of our fans couldn't have been there. It was a very, very far trip. But I'd say probably the biggest atmosphere I played in would be the Celebration Bowl when we played Deion Sanders. That was an amazing, amazing atmosphere. All our fans was there, all their fans was there, and we was going back and forth at it. We ended up coming out victorious, won 41-34 in overtime.
That was his last game at Jackson State, right?
It was his last game. It was a great game, and I had the most fun. Everything was so fun about that game, and we ended up coming out victorious because we believed in everything we could do that day, and I'm glad we ended up coming out victorious that day because we still talk about it to this day.
Was there a moment when you were looking at the other sideline like, holy crap, that's Deion Sanders over there?
I would say probably like when we first got there, like we seen him, but we was there for business.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, we know we playing against Deion. Like we was looking at them all for like 4 weeks because we had like 4 weeks to prepare for them. So we prepared for them. We already knew what we was coming against, what we was going against, and at that point, he won't Deion. He was the enemy.
All right, it is the Garner Trust Hour. Tori Simpkins III hanging out with us on this Thursday. We'll have more coming up right here on The Game. Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour here on the game. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, along with you. Torricelli Simpkins III, hanging out with us for another segment here. And I talked about this a little bit earlier on, in the show, Torricelli, that the month of May is the one time of the year where you guys get a little bit of a reprieve, have a little bit of time off. First of all, what have you been doing to give yourself a little bit of break in the month of May, and how ready are you for next week when you jump right back into it?
What have I been doing for this month of May? I've been working out a little bit for the beginning part of May, and then I ended up taking a little break. I went to Miami with my girlfriend. We had a blast. It was fun. It was everything I wanted. Got a little rest in. So it's always good to take that break, just you and your partner just having a good time, and that was pretty good. But ever since we got back, I've been working out, actually down here at the facility, just going in, working out with some of the other guys.
Speaking of the workouts, man, every guy we talk to in here, especially transfers, are like, Luke Day, these workouts are something different. So give us your insights, give us your opinion. What has that been like, kind of just stepping not just into an SEC weight program, but a Luke Day program?
The weight program is a weight program, and you're going to be in there for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to work for 2 hours too. They know what they're doing though. They isolate the muscles, and they're going to make sure you get work, and that I respect it. And they're not lying. It's a lot. It can be a lot sometimes, and I haven't failed to complete any workouts, but it's been some times where you gotta think in your mind like, yeah, you want this when you're doing this workout right here.
What is your least favorite workout they have y'all do?
Ooh, I would have to say the push, pull, carry, crawl. You have to push. It depends on the week we're on. But the last week we had, it was 200 yards with your partner. So you got to push your weight 100 yards. Like you got to push a sled.
It's a sled,
yards.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Y'all could do it. Y'all could split it up 50-50. You got to go down first, and then you got to go back. So it's 200 yards altogether. But you can split it up any way you want. You got to push the sled 200 yards, and you got to pull the sled 200 yards. Then you got to carry dumbbells, and they got to be half your weight. You got to carry dumbbells 200 yards. Then you have to crawl with like a weighted belt. It's like a weighted belt with chains on it. It's a weighted belt with chains on it. You got to crawl 200 yards with your partner. That's probably my least favorite workout. But everybody says the walking press is really bad. But I actually like the walking press. It's not as bad as everybody says it is. It's a workout. It's like you clean the dumbbells and you have to squat with it, and you have to touch your elbows on your knees. But that's pretty good too.
Well, that's why you're a D1 athlete and we're not.
So I was telling you off air, man, Coach Beamer's bragged on you a little bit, and that's always a good sign, like you said, when the head coach is kind of singling you out for good reasons. But in terms of just maybe making an impact and how you thought the spring went, what has that been like, kind of playing some center, then playing a lot of guard? I think we saw you at guard in the spring game. And for the fans out there, you have a background where you played a lot of center early on, I think, in your career, but then you were telling me you played a lot of guard. Do you care which spot, or is it just, hey, man, I want to find a way to help the team and get on the field?
That's mainly what it is. I want to find a way to help the team and get on the field. Center will always be like my first love. That's that's where I started at. But right guard is just something like, it's very fun to me. Like playing guard is not as complicated as playing center to me. And as long as I have a center that I trust beside me, I will gladly play guard. And Vershawn, he's very trustable, and I trust him. So I'm very cool with wherever coach feels me needed at.
And I'm sure you know the issues that this team had with the offensive line last year with the injuries and everything, and brought in a ton of guys, including yourself in the transfer portal this offseason, brought in a couple of highly touted freshmen as well. What's that competition been like through spring practice so far, and what are you expecting through the summer and fall, and kind of trying to hammer out what the starting five is going to look like?
The competition is great. Everybody's competing because everybody wants to play. Everybody loves the game. Everybody wants to be their best version of themselves. And if they want to play on that field, they know they got to bring their A game, and they're going to compete. It's not set in stone who's starting. Everybody has a chance to start. Everybody is fighting for a chance to start. Everybody's giving it their A game every day to get better so they can start. So it's up for grabs who's going to start at certain positions. So I really don't know who's going to start. I just know I'm going to give it my all. If I'm not up there, I know I'll give it my all to be up there.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And so Coach Beamer always tells us, the media people, he's like, there is no depth chart. We're all playing. We're just all competing. He always says, I think he says it like this, it's like a core value of the program, competition is. So how much rotation is there, like just from from practice to practice in terms of, maybe cross-training at different positions, or just, hey, this rep, we're going to let this guy get some time with the ones. Next rep, it may be somebody else. How much were y'all able to kind of work in and out with different combinations this spring?
Excuse me. We did that a lot, actually. Mm-hmm. Every day, you didn't know who you was going with. Mm-hmm. It could possibly be me at center, Vili at tackle. Mm-hmm. It could be me at guard, Vili at center, or Vili at center, Tro and Kamar at guard, or me at center. Then you could have Mac and Marquis. And then you got Tree, tackle. So he was throwing a lot of different combinations at us and trying to figure out which ones worked so he can put us together and see if we can make a good drive together. And I felt like doing that also gave guys a chance to show that they can play with certain guys and show that they can play on the field. So I felt like it was a great opportunity when he did that.
Only a couple more minutes here with Torricelli Simpkins III. Away from football, off the field, what are you doing in your free time? How do you like to relax and unwind a little bit?
I say my free time, if nothing football related, I'll probably go get on my game. I play the PlayStation 5. That's my baby.
What are we playing?
Madden.
Okay.
Or 2K or Call of Duty. And I just started playing this new game. It's not really new. I played it when I was at high school a little bit. It's called Brawlhalla.
Okay.
And it's a fun game as well.
Now, a lot of guys come in here and say they play Call of Duty. You played with anybody else on the team yet?
Yeah, I played with Jakai Moore. I played with him, and we played zombies. But we played a little bit of the Warzone, too. It was pretty fun. That's my guy. We'd be he'd invite me over, and we'll go play the Switch. We play Mario Kart and stuff. It'll be me, him, Vili, and Cam Pringle.
I feel like that's the first Brawlhalla we've gotten.
Yeah, I'm already doing.
Hey, everybody else though, seriously, 2K, Madden, Call of Duty, like that's the big three, I think. But so we got to ask, did you opt into the college football 25? I'm guessing so.
Yes, sir. Of course I did. I love football games. I pride myself on football games. I believe I'm the best Madden player to do it. So anytime I get a chance to be in a game, I'm gonna get it. Like, I'm gonna take that opportunity, and if I'm like just getting the chance is just a blessing. So
yeah, it's cool. What's your rating gonna be, you think, man?
Oh.
Did they give y'all any feedback on any of this stuff, or it's just like
just put your information
sign your name
in.
and we're gonna send you a free copy.
Free copy.
A little bit of money.
Yeah, that's literally that's all they gave us. I'm expecting a smooth 69 or 70. I'm not getting my hopes up. I know how this is going to be.
I appreciate the honesty. That's respectable. Now, there's always the potential that your ratings can increase.
Right.
So, because like in Madden, they change them throughout the season. So there's always a possibility there. So it's a good starting point.
I think that's a good goal, man. Maybe by about week 3 when they do that roster update and
that's when you're
starting, that they have to raise you up a little bit, right?
Absolutely. Well, Torricelli, we appreciate you hanging out with us. We know you gotta out here, get to some workouts and stuff, but man, we gotta have you back in here another time. This was a great conversation.
Oh yeah, I'd love to come back in here. It was great. I had fun. Great talking to y'all guys.
Well, we're excited that you're here, and we certainly wish you the best of luck this upcoming season.
All right, appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. That's Torricelli Simpkins third. It is the Garnet Trust Hour on your Thursday here on The Game.
All right, guys, you've heard me tell you about them for weeks now. It's our friends over at Classic Roofing. Head on over to classicroofingsc.com or give them a call today, 803-590-7870. My friends Joe Reeder, Max Sawyer, they're going to take great care of you and your residential or commercial roofing needs right here throughout the Columbia, South Carolina area and surrounding areas. Here's what you need to do. Go to that website, again, classicroofingsc.com. You're going to get more information about their services, and also you can set up a free estimate for them to come out to your home or business. You may be thinking, I don't need a free estimate right now. Well, you probably actually do, because your roof is one of the most important parts of your home, and you want to make sure that it's taken care of, not just now, but into the future. So once they come out, they're going to give you an expansive estimate. They're going to let you know what the future of that roof looks like, how much time you have left with that roof, and if there are any issues that may need to be fixed soon. Call them today, 803-590-7870. That's Classic Roofing, classicroofingsc.com.
Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell here on the game on your Thursday. Appreciate Torricelli Simpkins the third for hanging out with us for a couple segments there. And again, it's their last week of freedom, I guess is the best way to put it. I know he's already on campus working out, but they jump right back into it, I believe, on Monday, on Memorial Day, and jump right into summer workouts, and then it's a full speed ahead into the season.
Yeah, team meeting on Monday, first workout on Tuesday. So, man, that's going to be a rude awakening.
But especially for the guys that maybe haven't been as up as they should be this month. That I always remember, and this is wrestling, it's different, but that first day of practice back, even if you were doing stuff in the off season, you hurt in areas that you didn't think you could hurt in.
Yes. No matter how much you prepare, and I feel like I'm sure coaching staffs around the world go out there and probably want to give the guys that welcome back moment, like especially the ones who maybe didn't keep up with their health a little bit there.
They want to find out real quick.
Yeah, and but I will say this: Beamer has said several times, and did not appear to be just like coach speak. Like, we want the guys, if they need a reset, if they need a break, to do so, because, dude, once you get rolling, there really aren't many breaks at all. No. And, believe it or not, college student athletes have to go to class as well at some point. So, you got that. You got the games in the fall. They'll get a little break in July, but it's got to be brief because you don't want to lose any of that conditioning or strength gains as well. So, I think, what he told us, and then talking to Torricelli a little bit off the air too, he had a really good balance of, getting that mental and physical reset, taking a little bit of time off, seeing some family, going on a vacation, but also getting in his workouts. People listening will be happy to know that's why he's not here for the whole hour. He was going to work out at 11, so he let him get out of here so he wouldn't be late getting over there.
Right.
And right now, those are actually voluntary. So he's going over there, getting his workout in, and especially, I've always thought, man, for the big guys, you don't want to lose that conditioning.
Right.
The little guys can get it back, I feel like, fairly quick for the most part. But the big guys, a month of not doing anything.
Yeah, big setback there.
Yeah, no doubt.
And Torricelli, and again, you bring in so many different guys in the transfer portal this offseason, in addition to bringing in Josiah Thompson, Cam Pringle, and guys like that from the from the recruiting class. So there are so many new names in this offensive line room to kind of get used to and kind of see how they're going to shake out. And in the practices that you guys were observing, and then we saw in the spring game as well, Torricelli was a name that kept coming up more and more and more, factoring into playing center, factoring into playing that guard spot, which he was able to do in North Carolina Central as well. And I don't know if there wasn't maybe as high of a level of expectation given the fact that he was coming from FCS, but he has a ton of experience. Like, this is a guy that has the potential to really come in and make an impact right away.
He really does. I'm going to go back and find my tweet when he committed and retweet it. I'm not a look what I said guy at all, but I may pull this one out because I have thought that not even necessarily that he was going to come in and just start.
Right.
Which now it appears he may. He really may.
Sure.
But I thought this was, and I still do, I thought this was just a really underrated get, and being a guy that you could feel comfortable whether he wins that job right off the bat, or we know, hopefully they don't have anywhere near the injuries they had last year.
Sure.
Not speaking that into existence, but if you play a physical position like that in a physical game of football, you're going to have guys dinged up. It's just a fact of life. So, to me, this was a very important addition of a veteran kid, someone who played from the moment they stepped on campus at his previous stop. And really, you hear him talk, obviously knows the game, super intelligent kid, just, has a great way about him. Like, definitely somebody who will represent your school well, looks like he has SEC size as well. And so I think this was a smart pickup, man. And they, they bring him in. He obviously is a competitor as well. He competes. And I don't know about you, Tyler. It feels to me like they're kind of saying, let's find a spot for this guy. Like it really it sounds like it hasn't been, all right, he can be, Vershawn Lee's the center. He can be his backup. It's been more like, let's slide him to guard and see if he can take a starting role there.
And that's why it's so valuable. And he's not the only one to bring in guys that do have the ability to play multiple positions on the offensive line. And as we talk about a lot, I know it seems like the offensive line is just one giant cluster of a unit, but all those positions are very unique and very specific set of skills to play each one of them. So not everybody can have that versatile ability like a Rashawn Lee that can play just about everywhere on the offensive line, or a Simpkins, again, who played mainly center but also played some guard as well during his time there at North Carolina Central. Now, where he slides on the line, we don't know exactly. Again, Rashawn Lee, you're going to be very hard-pressed to upend him as your starting center. But one of those guard spots, maybe taking it from Ja'Kai Moore, maybe getting in there over Trevon Ball, could go either way there. But he's definitely making a push from everything that we've seen.
Yeah, and he said right guard, so that appears to be, like, from what I've heard, it sounds more like he's going to compete potentially more at guard than center at this point. Now, if you had a guy banged up, maybe he slides back into center. But right guard, and hopefully I'm not reversing these, I think that's where Tro has been.
Mm-hmm.
So we're starting, I feel like, between what Beamer told us on Tuesday and then, talking to him, looking at how things were in the spring game, we are starting to get a little bit more vision on the plan there on the O-line. So we know left tackle, it's mainly Tree and Josiah fighting it out.
Mm-hmm.
But Ja'Kai Moore has kind of he's become your swing guy. And I think if they can keep him healthy, he could be another valuable guy in that maybe he's in the first 5, maybe he's not. But when you start talking about that 8, doesn't it seem like coaches always go to that 8 number?
Sure.
I want 8 guys.
Yeah, ideally that's what you'd like to have. And again, unfortunately, South Carolina just had so many injuries last year. You were throwing out whoever you could have. You didn't even have enough for a backup unit in practice. But, this will be a good problem to have if it ends up being the case where you have some really talented guys that just aren't going to be able to get on the field because there are not enough spots. And, ideally, again, everybody stays healthy and you don't have to worry about having to burn through those reserves. But, getting a spot on that starting 5 with the offensive line is not going to be easy this year. And that, again, is a good issue to have with your team.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And so it seems like from what Beamer has said, and then, of course, talking to Torricelli here for a while today, that it has been a really smooth transition for him. And I guess I knew this, but didn't get it reiterated until we talked to him today. He did have Teasley as his coach when he first got there.
Yep.
And so I think for him, for anybody, if you have a little bit of that comfort level with the coach, that helps with the transition. And I almost think, man, there's been so many transfers. Like how many guys? Like, we've had a lot of transfers in here now.
Oh yeah.
How many of them across multiple position groups have said that very thing that Torricelli said about basically, man, they've just been so welcoming to me. So I think that's valuable. That you look at the D-line room, you look at the O-line room, they have good guys. Like, they have some veterans. He talked about Ja'Kai, inviting him over to play video games. Like Ja'Kai, Vershawn, I'm sure I'm forgetting guys, but then D-line room, Michael Goodwine was telling us how Tonka, Boogie, all those guys have welcomed him with open arms. It would be easy to be like, man, this guy's coming in to take my spot.
Sure, absolutely. No, it's good camaraderie, and I think that all trickles down to the culture that Beamer's established here. Welcome home isn't just a catchy slogan; like, it actually means something, and that is a pretty common theme that we hear from all these guys, whether it be transfers or freshmen coming in as well. That they just kind of feel like they get accepted pretty quickly, which is good.
Yeah, they do, and that's important. And every coach talks about culture, but it does seem like they have been able to instill that in this program, which I think is probably harder than ever to do because of the portal. And so when your newcomers come in and can kind of ingrain themselves within the fabric of what you're trying to do very quickly, that means you got something good going in terms of that, and it means you're recruiting the right guys even out of the portal.
Absolutely. We'll come back. We'll wrap up today's edition of the Garnet Trust Hour. Tyler Head and Wes Mitchell along with you here on this Thursday here on The Game. Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour. Tyler Head and Wes Mitchell along with you for a few more minutes here. Chris Clark will join us at the top of the 11 o'clock hour for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. By the way, we'll be out at Firehouse Subs tomorrow from 9 until noon out at Forest Drive. Come by and see us. We will have plenty of baseball to talk about and we'll obviously dive into all this in the next hour. But, man, this has been a fun week so far of Gamecock baseball at the SEC tournament.
Yeah, man, just goes to show you never know what's going to happen, and you get a little momentum. What a win for them. We'll dive into this in Takeover Hour. We got Jack calling in again, his daily check-in from Hoover.
That's right.
But, yeah, it's funny how quickly the momentum can turn. Dead in the water, 6 straight losses, and now two wins over, top 20 RPI teams for South Carolina. If they were not solidly in before, they are now at least solidly into the field. And, Tyler, I'll be curious to see what the feedback is from the people that cover this stuff, on a day-to-day basis, like are ingrained in college baseball in terms of how much movement South Carolina could have in terms of seeding,
right?
If they can keep this run going. That 6 in a row, it's very, very difficult to pull your way out of that in terms of, like, the hosting conversation.
Right.
But I do think, compared to what we were just talking about just 2 games ago,
yep,
they're probably at least pulling themselves up into where you're a 2 seed and maybe you get a little bit better draw potentially.
Yeah, and D1 Baseball does a really good job of updating things daily while these tournaments are going on. And their latest projections, they don't have South Carolina in that hosting category. But, yeah, they definitely have the shot to at least maybe be a 2 seed in whatever regional they got sent to. Again, Clemson was the last one they were projected to at the start of the week. And it's so funny. I think I mentioned this yesterday, how quickly, your resume can flip in just a day or so's time. And look, yes, they have updated this for today where, going into the week, Carolina had 9 quad 1 wins. They now have 14 because Vanderbilt jumped up into quad 1 after beating Florida the other day. Obviously, Vanderbilt's still in the winner's bracket as of right now. So that's helping out South Carolina. Then you beat Alabama. Then you beat Arkansas. Like, they're bolstering their resume kind of at the last minute here. And again, is it going to be good enough to host? I don't know, but they're certainly helping out their cause quite a bit.
Yeah, and Arkansas is way up there, right?
Yeah, they were 2 yesterday. They're down to 4 now, but still, that's quad 1 is quad 1. And obviously, Carolina has the potential to match up with some other high-end teams, depending on what happens in the rest of the SEC tournament. Again, LSU's helped themselves out. They've come into quad 1, so another opportunity to beat them today if that happens. And again, does it get you a hosting spot? Maybe, maybe not, but it at least puts you in a better position as far as maybe being a 2 seed as opposed to being a 3.
Well, and North Carolina, who South Carolina beat in the live RPI here, is now number 2.
Yes.
So, I mean, you've played just about everybody. You've played everybody in the top 7. I think.
That is correct, yes.
Think about that. I mean, you've played everybody in the top 7, so that certainly helps. I think hosting a regional is a little bit far-fetched, but win today, now you've rallied, you've tallied off 3 in a row, and who knows what can happen. And so you look at these tournament settings, and again, we'll get to more of it next show. Tournament settings, you see different matchups than maybe you're going to see in that normal just 3-game SEC weekend traditional series. And, even looking today, LSU not throwing a guy who has great numbers. Mm-hmm. And so, I think now South Carolina, on the other hand, they're going with Pitzer,
yep,
who is a young guy. He's had to me, he's had a typical young guy freshman year in that you see the talent and you're like, man.
Sure.
Like, there's been times I remember having that conversation where he stepped up and you're like, is this guy the answer for Sundays?
Well, and he worked his way into that starting role at points this season. I know it's kind of an ongoing cycle, but he pitched well enough up to that point to earn that role, and obviously he's kind of gotten moved back into the bullpen. But I imagine he's going to be kind of the starter thing like we've seen all week long, 2-3 innings, depending on how well he pitches. And Carolina, when you look at what Chris Veach and Garrett Gainey did yesterday, that saved Carolina a lot of not having to bring in maybe an additional arm or two in both those games to where you have more that you can pull from, and additionally bring in some guys that have already pitched this week in today's game, tomorrow's game, however many games you end up playing the rest of the weekend.
In a weird way, they have kind of rolled into this basically opener kind of strategy where you just say, hey, every guy is going to try to get through the batting order once, maybe into the second time through, unless you just have a guy out there who is your stud, like Gainey or Veach, or you just like their own today.
Sure.
And so in a weird way, that may be perfect for this staff, because I feel like all year long we've seen a staff that at times has looked deep, but at times has not been able. Like, how many times have we seen pitchers that second time through struggle? Or like Pitzer has had some outings where you're like, oh, this guy looks like a young player. He's had other times you're like, man, this guy is actually really talented and has a huge upside. So if you go in saying, hey, just get us through the order once, maybe into that second time, it's a different mindset for the guys, I think. So this may be the strategy even going into a regional.
Yeah, maybe so. And again, it's kind of been a revolving door, especially with what you're doing at your weekend rotation all season long. But maybe you're kind of clicking on something as of right now. And again, when you have your best pitcher like Garrett Gainey pitching his best, Veach obviously stepping up the other day as well, and hopefully everybody kind of falls in line. Even Jones and Good yesterday had solid outings before they ended up getting pulled. Things kind of got away from Good there, which is when Gainey ended up coming in. But I wouldn't say anybody has had a disastrous outing for South Carolina this week on the mound, which again is a huge change of pace from what you dealt with over the past couple of weeks.
Well, and I think, did we see a shutdown Eli Jones? No, but we saw a much better outing
for sure.
Than we've seen lately. He was his own worst enemy on the one the bad throw over second, but that's not a pitching thing, really. So lots of positives to take away so far from the last 2 days, Tyler.
And we'll dive into what happened yesterday against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Thrilling game, 6-5 win for the Gamecocks in round 2 of the SEC tournament. This is all coming up next on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on your Thursday on the game.
All right, you've heard us tell you about them really for over a year now. It's our friends over at Oline Framing in West Columbia. It is, of course, graduation season, whether that is high school or college graduation. You may be looking for a great gift idea. How about giving the gift of a custom frame diploma from Oline Framing? Owner Kendall Walsh, manager Johnny James, they're going to take great care of you and that custom frame diploma, but also any and all of your other custom framing needs. That could be original artwork, that could be canvases, jerseys, flags. In the NIL era, maybe you have a signed print that you want to take to the next level and put it on the wall. If there's a sports fan in your life that's just difficult to buy for, why not give them the gift of a custom framing job? Call them today and set something up. 803-739-1337. Oline Framing has been in business for over 20 years. So head on over to 511 12th Street, West Columbia. Check out what they got in store or call them today, 803-739-1337.
11 o'clock on your Thursday morning. Welcome in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head and Wes Mitchell. I think Chris Clark is supposed to be here.
No, he's out there.
Is he?
Yeah, he's out there.
Oh, well, maybe he'll realize it in a second.
He must be. Maybe he's gathering some scoop.
Maybe he's actually doing.
Probably on the
maybe
phone.
he's actually doing his job.
He's probably on the phone.
People may not realize this. This is only like part of your day. You guys actually do other important
I hope they
things.
realize that. I hope they check out GamecockCentral.com.
I hope so too. Great content every single day.
No doubt. Yeah, we're going to talk about some baseball, I guess. We're going to talk about maybe some O-line again later on if we have time.
For sure. A lot of things happening in the landscape of college football. Some big news coming down yesterday as well.
I want to get Chris's take on that, actually.
For
He's
sure.
our resident expert on that stuff.
Yes, he is. And hey, if we don't get to it today, we got 3 hours tomorrow out at Firehouse Subs on Forest Drive, where we're also going to be talking about more baseball tomorrow because regardless of what happens today, Carolina has at least one more game in the SEC tournament as they are 2-0 so far. Wins over Alabama on Tuesday, and then Arkansas 6-5 yesterday, highlighted by a phenomenal performance by Cole Messina, going 3 of 4 at the plate and then hitting 2 home runs on the day for the 5 RBIs, where he scored 5 of the 6 runs for South Carolina en route to that victory over Arkansas. And look, we know Cole Messina is a great player, preseason All-American, going to be playing in the pros here before too long, and great players step up in big moments. And that's exactly what he was able to do yesterday against Arkansas.
Garnet Trust Hour alum Cole Messina.
That's right.
Yeah, he. You have to. I heard the announcers talking about this. Your studs have got to play well to go on a run. I think, and that goes for any type of postseason, whether it's SEC tournament or whether it's the big one in regionals and super regionals and all that. But man, Cole has sort of. If you look at this team the last 2 years, Cole and Ethan have obviously been your 2 best talents in the middle of this lineup. And Cole, I think he's the emotional kind of heart and soul of this team, and he has put them on his back. He's had big hit after big hit. Really, you can go back. This didn't just start this week. Obviously, the wins weren't there, but sure. Cole has been on a run, man. Like, he is seeing the ball right now.
Yeah, he dipped a little bit in the Georgia series a couple weeks ago, but for the most part, I mean, this entire season he's been on and hitting the ball really well and, really kind of coming to true form at the right time.
Yeah, he's been awesome. 2 more just massive hits yesterday. And speaking of Ethan, I think lost in everything else that happened. How about that layout catch on the foul line? Like that.
I think I got number 6 on the top 10 plays.
Wait, did it?
I believe that's what Terry was telling me.
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, deserves it.
Yeah,
we've actually seen a lot of very good catches at Hoover this week, by the way. But that one might take the cake.
That's one of those plays you look back. I don't know if South Carolina wins that game if that ball finds the grass, because then who knows where it bounces and rolls to, and you got a lot of guys on base, and they did score on that play, but it more helped you kind of slow the bleeding a little bit and avoid giving up the massive inning, and so that was huge. Obviously, Messina was huge, and this team. I mean, we talked about it. Winning just gives you that feeling that you don't get from anything else, and they have started to refine their stride a little bit.
Yeah, that catch.
Thanks for joining us, by the way, Chris.
Oh, no problem. I was taking care of something out there. Y'all had to call me out. The one time I've ever been late for the show, I think. By the way,
Tyler loves.
We can't let you slide.
Yeah, he loves the call out. I cannot wait. There will be a day when Tyler is late for a show.
And you know what?
Probably
you
not,
guys are more than welcome to call me out on that. That's totally fine.
We'll probably spend the entire hour on the call out. But
Talking
no,
about
you're right.
Georgia fan Tyler is late.
Actually, that's probably his revenge on us.
Yeah,
with the Georgia call outs.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
But it's a great point. So I was actually in and out of being able to watch and then listening to Derek and Coach Stewart on the radio call. And so the Petrie catch actually heard on the radio. And I remember them saying, that's one that you can't really let go, because given the situation, bases are loaded, right? In that situation, I think you had, one out bases loaded, I believe is what I recall. And so when I heard it on the radio, I'm like, it kind of made it sound a little bit more like it was even closer to the line, to where maybe you've got a judgment call. Petrie catches it, gets it in quick. Like you said, Wes, the run scores. But once I was able to go back and actually watch the play from the broadcast copy, I mean, that was a no-doubter. Like, that was a fair ball by far. And you're right. If he misses that thing, I mean, the bases might clear at that point.
Probably.
And now you've got a hole that you've dug. So it was a tremendous catch and a great job to hop up and be able to get that ball in as quickly as possible. Just a huge play. It's hard to pick out one play in that game where you go, that's the play of the game. I mean, you could say that, but then, of course, Messina, Dave Van Horn, the Arkansas coach, spoke afterwards, and he was right in his comments, too, that, you know, they pitched South Carolina pretty well, but one guy just killed him. You know, and they get a leadoff man on, and then Cole Messina comes up and hits the ball 400 and something feet.
That's baseball, homie.
Specifically, they hit Blake Jackson, and then Cole Messina hits a home run.
That's right, yeah. And, you know, Gabe Gackle, who's a freshman from Arkansas, he was tremendous in the series earlier this year. He had his stuff going, but he threw Cole Messina a pitch over the plate, and Cole hammered it. First home run that Gackle's given up all year.
Yep, couldn't come at a better time.
That's just, I almost had to go back and check that when they said that. I was like, there's no way he just gave up his first home run of the year.
Kid's been awesome.
And that ball was a tank, too. So, what an awesome moment for Messina. What an awesome moment for that team. And then they still, it was not over at that point. You still had to go get 3 outs. Arkansas, you know, that's a proud program too, man. Like they're not a great hitting team this year, top to bottom. Certainly not like what we've seen from them some years, but they'll fight you. Like they were not going down without a fight, and they put some pressure on South Carolina in the bottom of the ninth.
They absolutely did, and I think that's where, you know, that faith in Garrett Gainey really came in. And I thought it was interesting that Coach, you know, Kingston talked about it after the game, like, no, we didn't even have anybody in the pen warming up at that point in time. We believed that Garrett Gainey was going to be able to get out of that situation. And even him coming in the 7th inning when Good had put 2 guys on with no outs, like, that was a tough spot to come in. And, yes, those guys ended up going across the plate. Those were Good's runners at the end of the day. But Garrett Gainey came in, got everything back on track, calmed everything down, and was able to pitch 3 good innings to help South Carolina win, which, again, going into the week, we knew it was going to be that all-hands-on-deck type of approach, and you were going to use Garrett Gainey if the situation called for it, and having a 2-run lead in the 7th inning, perfect time to bring him in. I mean, forget about today, forget about tomorrow. You needed him then, and he stepped up and did his job.
Yeah, I thought if you're going to criticize the staff for pitching decisions last week and not sort of being a little more aggressive and bringing in your top arms, I think you got to credit them. It's been a complete shift to just, hey, we're going to the big guns. And, you know, I think there's a world where if Garrett Gainey is not used yesterday, maybe you do start him today. But and we talked about it, if this scenario presents itself, do you go ahead and burn Gainey if you have a chance to go win the game? And they obviously agreed with our thinking in that, yes, you absolutely do. He's so versatile. And luckily, these college guys, man, it's not like Major League Baseball where everything is so structured and, hey, you get ready for this inning and then you get ready for this role. The college guys are used to starting one day. You might be in the pen next weekend. They get it. They have experience doing it. And I really think South Carolina has begrudgingly entered into a structure for this staff that may actually be the best fit for what they have. And that's been kind of piece it together and keep the opponent from seeing your guy 3 times, sometimes even 2 times through the order, unless it's a situation where, you know, it's Veach or Gainey and they're your guys. So I think I'm very kind of intrigued to watch Pitzer today. I think he's a talented kid, and you can tell him the mindset of, hey, just go get us through 2-3 innings. If you can do that, we're happy with your performance, and you've got an offense behind you that we think is going to put up some runs.
When Cole Messina, to go back to that, because I just can't get over that plate, when he came up to the plate, I was like, I think he really might hit a home run here. You know, and sometimes that happens. Guy strikes out, whatever, flies out. But it was just such a big moment. And, man, he's just so deserving of that moment, too, because he has been an absolute warrior. And I think he's someone that no matter how this season finishes and how his career finishes in terms of wins and losses and when they may go home in this tournament or in the NCAA tournament, I think he should be remembered very fondly because he's given everything, his leadership, his defense, and then the way he's hit it's really been awesome to watch.
And we were talking about this yesterday as the game was going on. I mean, you said that he's kind of positioned himself as one of your all-time favorites. There's been a lot of great players that have come through South Carolina, so that's saying something.
And I get irritated when the big J journalists, sports journalists come out, you can't have favorite players, or whatever. And it's like, no, like you get to know the personalities, and this isn't, 1980 anymore. Like, you can have, these are some of my favorite guys to have covered and to watch, and you can have that appreciation, not only for guys at the school you cover, but at other schools too. And he's definitely one for me.
How is he second team All SEC?
They're talking about that on the broadcast. So they compared him and the A&M guy who got it over him, and he's a good player.
Sure.
But, he got hosed, basically.
Yeah, I don't. And
the other guy wasn't even on the Buster Posey list either.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
The guy who's first team All SEC.
Right.
Very weird.
I believe the announcer said that Cole should be on the All-American list. So
hard to disagree with that.
You know what? Maybe that's the chip. Maybe that's the chip on the shoulder he needed for this week. He's obviously playing like it.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't think that guy needs a chip on his shoulder though. That guy he comes and compete. I mean, think about this. He doesn't believe in, obviously by his actions, he doesn't believe in limiting his time because he's a catcher. Like most of the time, catchers, we're gonna let this guy catch 2 out of the 3 this week. I mean, he's like, no, put me. Oh, hey man, we're gonna give you this midweek game off. No, coach, put me at DH.
I know, yeah. He's always trying to do something.
I know ultimately it's Kingston's decision, but that's based on feedback from him.
Absolutely.
So the fact that he just wants to compete, regardless of when, where, who, why. I think there's a reason that this team, even after 6 straight losses, still comes back and fights through this tournament and bounces back and finds some momentum. And lots of times you can point to your leaders in a locker room, and I don't think it's a coincidence that you have a guy like Messina who is that guy.
For sure. We'll continue this conversation. Jack Belcher going to check in with us coming up next from out there in Hoover, getting you set for today's matchup with LSU coming up around 5:30. Pregame coverage starting at 5:15 right here on the game. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game.
And you just heard that the Game TV, where you can stream us and watch us every day here on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, is powered by our friends over at Integrated Media. They did a great job with that setup, and they can do a great job with your setup at your home or your business, no matter what you need. Maybe you need something as simple as just mounting a TV. Maybe you've got a bunch of wires all over the place that you don't even know what they go to. You need them sorted out. You need them to look better. You need to hide them. They can do that for you. Or they can put a complete smart home system in your home, security and cameras for your business or home. You can control all your lights, devices, and thermostat, all from the touch of a button. IntegratedMediaInc.com is where you can go to learn more information or give Michael and Nathan and the whole team at Integrated Media a call, 803-948-8327. They have a showroom up in Chapin. You can go check out your equipment, source it, and they can put it in for you. Local company, IntegratedMediaInc.com.
Definitely get his swing. He gives one a ride to deep center. Back goes Holt at the wall. He'll leap. It's out of here. Cole Messina does it again. First pitch, breaking ball, and Messina has himself a 2-home run game. That one 104 miles an hour off the bat, and it traveled 419 feet. Cole Messina's third big fly in Hoover.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris along with you on this Thursday. That was Derek Scott and Stuart Lake on the call yesterday for that 9th inning home run that helped put the Gamecocks over the Arkansas Razorbacks 6-5 to advance to the 3rd round of the SEC tournament. Our guy Jack Beltry is always joining us from Hoover, covering things for Gamecock Central. Appreciate your time as always, Jack. And, if I was an opposing pitcher, I wouldn't give Cole Messina a meatball to hit like that because he's probably going to end up taking it yard like you did yesterday.
Yeah, first off, thank you guys for having me on again, as always. But, I think Messina's on tear right now. And, Tyler, you and I talked about it this morning. I don't know if I'd pitch to him, to be honest. He deserves the Charlie Condon, Christian Moore, Jack Caglione type treatment where, look, if the first base is open, probably walk him. But, maybe the rest of South Carolina's lineup will pick it up a little bit today and fall in line. But, yeah, Messina, he's been on an absolute run right now with Hoover.
Jack, appreciate you doing this again, man. Hopefully you're not tired of us yet. It just hit me when you were tweeting yesterday. I didn't realize this was your first time out there. So for the fans who have not made that trip, how has it been, man? What can you tell us about just the experience there? I've always thought, and I was texting you earlier, so for those who don't know, they have free ice cream in the press box at Hoover. So when you go out there, I feel like you legitimately a little bit feel like a kid going to a baseball game, getting some ice cream, and just it's hard to describe, but there's a very unique feel to this tournament that is kind of wholesome. So what has the experience been like for you personally so far, man?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I did have two ice cream bars from the ice cream box there yesterday.
You got to
in the presser, but absolutely. But dude, it's unbelievable. I mean, this is my first time here, and look, I've heard all the stories about how South Carolina's had horrible luck here. The weather's been awful and stuff, but look, I'm not gonna jinx anything. But things are going well right now in my first trip here. I don't think that's much of a coincidence, but it's been awesome. It is literally like being a kid in the candy store. It's so cool. Hoover's a beautiful stadium and all that, beautiful complex, and the SEC always does treat the media right.
Jack, if they win today in Kingston's presser afterwards, you need to bring up the fact that you're the reason why they're winning and see what he says.
Oh, absolutely. I should be on salary after this week. Hey, it's not something is clicking. It's no coincidence that, like I said, it's my first trip here and they're doing so well. But yeah, they're getting hot at the right time, I guess.
Jack, weren't you at those final 6 games of the SEC season as well?
He was.
Yeah. But we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that.
Yeah, another coincidence is I am actually volunteering to come and cover the tournament with Jack next year because
wonder why
I like ice cream as well. But Jack, this has been kind of a crazy tournament. So the SEC put this out this morning, and it kind of drives it home when you see the graphic and when you just see it stated this way. First time in the current tournament format, all 4 of the top seeds lost on the same day, and all are in elimination games this year, which is pretty crazy, right? So give us kind of your big picture overview just of this tournament. We're sitting here watching, Arkansas and Kentucky in an elimination game here right now. A&M's in an elimination game. You never know what's going to happen in Hoover, right? But what have been your overall impressions of what you've seen so far in the tournament as a whole?
Yeah, Chris, it's definitely been a wacky tournament. I mean, it starts with Mississippi State having that walk-off home run against Ole Miss the other day, and from there, yesterday was wild. And I think the big thing that we're looking at here is these top 4 seeds in the SEC tournament. They're great teams. They really don't have much to play for this week. Even if they got eliminated early, like if Kentucky loses today, they're still probably going to be hosting a super regional if they get that far. But I think when you look at like Vanderbilt, South Carolina, all these teams that are kind of in limbo of that 13-17 record trying to clinch a NCAA tournament berth, they're doing it right now. Like, they have a lot more to play for, and I think they're, really moving far and having a good chance of, like I said, a lot more to play for right now. And that's not to say these other teams don't, but I think they kind of want it more. And why you're seeing teams like South Carolina, LSU, Mississippi State trying to lock down a hosting spot potentially, and then Vanderbilt. I mean, they got a lot more to play for right now than these other teams that have already done their work.
Again, talking to Jack Belcher from Gamecock Central live out at Hoover for the SEC tournament. Of course, this week we've talked about pitching a lot in a positive light for once with Veach's performance the other day, and then Gainey doing what he did last night to close things out against Arkansas. Pitzer getting the start today, assuming he's probably going to go in the range of 2 to 3 innings, depending on how well he goes. Who comes in after him? What is the next move for Kingston with this pitching staff after Pitzer?
Well, I think it's probably got to be Jake McCoy after him. I think that makes sense. I'm thinking back to Winthrop 2 weeks ago, maybe. They kind of did this whole thing where pitcher threw 2 innings, McCoy went 2 innings, and then you use a lot of the midweek type guys to come in and pitch. That's kind of where South Carolina's at right now. They used 6 of their best arms these past 2 days, and I could also see someone like Dylan Eskew or Matthew Becker pitching today because they were both under 40 on Monday. But I think right now you're going to see a lot of the younger arms. Connor McCreary hasn't been used yet. Dare I say Roman Kimball hasn't been used yet. There's some options, but it's not your best options. But then again, everyone in this tournament is going to be out of pitching by the end of the week. So I think it's kind of just all hands on deck right now. And if you get a good outing from Pitzer today, if he ends up going like 3-4 innings and if he's cruising, that's a huge win for this pitching staff.
Well, I think, Jack, everybody's kind of going to be out of pitching, but at the same time, you can also look at it like opportunities, right? Like for some of these young guys who let's be honest, like Pitzer, McCoy, at times, like their talent has been on full display, but then at other times you're kind of reminded, all right, this is a young guy, there's not much experience. I always think that just consistency is the most difficult thing for a young pitcher to find. And so for South Carolina, and really every team here, I think you're always kind of hoping the tournament will provide a stage for maybe a Pitzer, a McCoy, whoever else, to just say, I'm going to take this opportunity and run with it, and that maybe gives you some confidence going to that same guy, whoever it ends up being that steps up next week when you're talking about the season being on the line.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've kind of thought about it a little bit this morning. Like, let's think about it this way. Like, hypothetically, next week when South Carolina is in their regional, they're going to be going with this same type of format where they don't have a true ace, so they're going to be using bullpen games to try and win. Is it sustainable long term? I don't know. I mean, the thing that I think about here is if South Carolina can do kind of what they did last year in sweeping a regional and winning 3 games, it really works out. But, I mean, this is where you kind of have to figure out, okay, who are your other guys going to be that can come in and eat up innings besides your main 6 like Chris Veach, Garrett Gainey, all those guys? Because you really do have to figure out, okay, if you're using those guys, those older guys, for the first 2 games of a tournament or whatever, who are you going to pitch after that? And I think today is going to give us a good answer of where are those younger guys at and how can we use them moving forward if we're in, say, an elimination game or some of our other bullpen arms have been burned out.
Today's game's a little bit later, 4:30 local time out there. Does that mean you'll be eating more ice cream today since you'll be at the park later?
Probably. I mean, they got all sorts of. They have a whole spread. I mean, it's like a buffet setup. They got all sorts of good food, and then obviously the ice cream is, go get it whenever you want. So we'll have to see. But I'm trying to limit myself, but who knows? I'll probably get one.
Man, tough life, Jack.
That's why we all join media, right? It's for the free food.
Yeah, definitely. It's a nice perk of being here. So.
All right, Jack, we appreciate your insight, and we'll talk to you tomorrow, hopefully about another win, and see what lies ahead for the rest of the weekend. Appreciate it as always.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on as always. Take care.
Again, Jack Belcher for Gamecock Central out there in Hoover. First pitch today, supposed to be around 5:30, depending on what time the first 2 games end up wrapping up. Pregame coverage starts here on the game regardless at 5:15. Interesting matchup with LSU. 2 teams kind of similar coming into the tournament. We'll dive into that a little bit coming up next, and a very familiar name that is going to be starting at the top of the lineup for LSU today. Hit that next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game.
All right, I want to tell you about our friends over at Firehouse Subs. 14 Midlands locations. And, guys, I'd temporarily forgotten about this until I started talking about it. We're going to be at Firehouse Subs tomorrow. Forest Drive location. Come out and see us.
We knew that.
9 to noon. I knew too, but I had to remind myself.
And they actually told me this time, which is nice.
And I'm very excited about it. 10:30, the store will be open. But honestly, guys, we'll probably be eating even before that. So come see us 9 to noon out at Forest Drive. And there's also 13 other locations in the Midlands, and then the 14th at Forest Drive. You can come out and use the Rapid Rescue to go to avoid the wait and order online wherever you are. In the Midlands, there's a Firehouse Subs near you. Go check out the new barbecue Cuban Southern Roots with the Cuban twist or any of your Firehouse Subs favorites. Super easy to use the Rapid Rescue to go or the Firehouse Subs app to order and earn yourself some rewards on future purchases. FirehouseSubs.com or the Firehouse Subs app.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyrod Westminster, Chris Clark along with you on this Thursday. Round number 3 of the SEC tournament. Gamecocks taking on the LSU Tigers. And this LSU team, of course, won the national championship a season ago. Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz, great talent on that team. You knew going into the next season there was going to be probably a little bit of a dip because you lose some of those great guys that help you win the national championship. I don't think we saw them losing all 5 of their first 5 SEC series and getting swept a couple of times, but they've turned it on in the second half of the regular season. They swept Ole Miss in the last weekend of the regular season. They've been on absolute fire this week in Hoover, outscoring their opponents 20-1 so far. So you're running into a red-hot LSU team that they themselves, much like South Carolina, looking to better position themselves for the NCAA tournament next week.
I got to think, especially with their pedigree as a program, they're in.
Oh, they're in. I mean, they were even in the, like Carolina, they were a 3 seed in, I think, Oklahoma State's regional coming into the week. So they've solidified themselves. And, but that's a program that, not to say that some teams don't take the tournament seriously, but they're a program that does look to go deep into Hoover every single year.
Oh, look at the numbers in terms of who's won the thing. And LSU, frankly, in baseball, they're a lot like Kentucky in basketball. And they have a fan base that even in a conference where everybody, it just means more for everybody, it means even more than that for LSU fans. I think they travel incredibly well. Like you look at the SEC basketball tournament, Kentucky fans, ultimately, they're going to take over. And for LSU, that's the way it is for baseball. So in a weird way, not that South Carolina as a team really cared who they were going to play, but in a weird way, you're probably were looking at this thing saying you would have rather faced the 3 seed in Kentucky than you would the 11 seed in LSU with the way this thing has played out so far.
Yeah, I think so. And, another interesting, there's a bunch of interesting, like, little sub-storylines about this game with LSU. You've got you got the Braswell deal, which a lot of Gamecock fans are talking about on Twitter. You've also got Thatcher Hurd, right, on the mound for LSU. And if you go search Twitter, if you're in, searching for some information about who is Thatcher Hurd and is he good, et cetera, like you'll find a lot of LSU fans seem to be very excited about this possibility. And certainly he was really good against South Carolina in last year's, outing against them. But Jack Veltri, who we just talked to, pointed out that, he's had some rough outings this season as well. He's kind of been up and down and might remind you of, Arkansas yesterday started somebody who had a higher ERA. Can you jump out and get some runs on the board early against Thatcher Hurd and kind of have a similar performance yesterday?
Yeah, so he started out the season as a regular starter. That kind of went sideways on him, gave up a lot of hits and a lot of runs. Kind of went into a bullpen role as the season went along, especially in SEC play. That seems to be a little bit more of his wheelhouse at this point in time. So I imagine, much like South Carolina, it's going to be an opener type of situation where he goes out there, throws maybe 2-3 innings, depending on how things go, and then they go into the bullpen for the rest of the game. But hopefully Carolina can take advantage of him in those first couple of innings, because that's the key to this game. If you're going to beat LSU, you're going to have to score a lot of runs. I mean, this game may end up being 15-14 or something like that. Like, you're going to have your offense on full display today.
Yeah, and again, puts a little bit of pressure on some of these younger pitchers for South Carolina. But if you're going to make a run anyway, and I'm not talking about this tournament, I'm talking about the NCAA tournament. If you're going to make a run, and to Jack's point, if you're going to keep piecing this thing together and say, hey, you go through the order once or twice, and then you go through the order once or twice, you're going to need some of these guys to step up and give you big outings. And the problem, like, there are pros and cons to everything. The problem with going with a whole staff approach is you need every guy to be on. It's like the more pitchers you throw, the more you introduce the opportunity to, hey, that guy's just having an off day.
Yep.
And so that's going to be part of it. Is it sustainable was Jack's question. I think he made a good point. If you just win game 1 in a regional setting, game 1, game 2, and then you win game 3 without ever having to go through the losers bracket or without ever having to go through the thing where a team beats you, but they have to beat you twice, but then that forces that extra game, that's when things could kind of get iffy for you. If you just sweep a regional, then yes, absolutely. But that does put pressure on all these guys to be good. I have thought that as the season is going on, Jake McCoy was someone they were looking and hoping could maybe step in and give them more down the stretch than he's been asked to do. And Pitzer with that awesome curveball, he's got the. I'm not saying this will happen, but I do think he has the potential. If you're telling him, let it ride, you don't have to save your energy for a long outing. I could see him going out there and slowing this LSU attack down a little bit. And really, doesn't it feel like games kind of have their own just they almost have their own feel? And it's like if there's lots of hitting early, you have to approach it like, all right, this may take 10 runs to win this game. But if a guy can come out, this is why I think teams even use this whole opener thing. If you get into that mindset of, all right, this is a defensive game, this is a defensive battle, this is a pitcher's duel, it just, the game takes on a certain personality. And I think for South Carolina, you don't want LSU to hit the ground running, so to speak, and just come out and have a couple of runs on the board before you really even get into the flow of the game.
Yeah, and Carolina's shown that they can – there have been more than one instance this season where they've been able to come from behind and make things a game, make it tight, or even come back and win games. But I get the sense that as of late, exactly what you said, Wes, if they're able to come out and establish – Alabama was an example where they did the opposite, right? Alabama goes up 3-0. You're able to ultimately come back. But if they can go out and just kind of swing freely, pitching staff and the hitters, establish what type of game it is early, get a couple of really good innings from pitcher, go out and swing, and then not have so much pressure to feel like where you're having to play from behind. I think that's helped them a good bit lately.
Yeah, and for most of this week, that's how they played outside of those first couple of innings against Alabama, and then they were able to jump on them and obviously cruise to a 5-run victory. And yesterday, anytime that, Arkansas got ahead of them, they were able to jump back pretty quickly there. So, it's kind of been a different mindset this week because you have played from ahead more often than not. And, you kind of see the confidence in this team. Looks like, that they're having fun this week, which when you're winning, you're obviously having fun. And hopefully that continues today and on into Friday. And that's the thing about, winning through the first 2 rounds, you've at least bought yourself 2 more games where you're playing today and tomorrow. Whatever that looks like, we don't know. And look, if you get bounced over these next 2 games, then you've done more than enough to solidify yourself in the NCAA tournament, which, again, was kind of the goal coming into the week to make sure there wasn't going to be any doubt that you're going to be playing more baseball when June rolled around.
Yeah, if it happens, so be it. But the beauty of winning those first 2 and getting yourself in the winner's bracket is that if you can somehow win today, man, all these top seeds that, like we were talking about, have lost, they're having to just spin their wheels and go through their pitching staff while you're testing your depth a little bit, but not to the extent that, we're watching Arkansas and Kentucky play an elimination game right now. It's not going to be to the extent that some of these other teams have to as well. So I think, strangely, I didn't think we'd be having this conversation, but
no, I didn't either.
It sets up not just with South Carolina winning 2, but with what's happening with some of these other teams. It does set up for a team who is not a favorite to go win this thing. But if LSU beats South Carolina today, I'm not betting against LSU to go win this thing, man, with all the momentum that they have.
Right. No, absolutely. And they're certainly playing like the best team in Hoover as of right now. We'll come back. We'll get some of your thoughts on the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100, as we wrap up today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on The Game. Welcome back in. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark along with you. Reminder, once again, tomorrow from 9 until noon, we'll be out at the Firehouse Subs on Forest Drive. Come by and see us and enjoy some delicious Firehouse Subs. We'll have plenty of baseball to talk about. Also, talk of the latest on football, maybe re-rack some things that Beamer was talking about earlier on this week at the Welcome Home event. But today's focus is all on baseball, getting set for the Gamecocks and the Tigers later on today around 5:30, depending on what time game number 2 wraps up out there in Hoover. Pregame coverage will start right here at 5:15. Brock weighs in on the Firehouse Subs text line, is asking about the format of this tournament. And I know it can get kind of confusing because it goes from single elimination to double elimination back to single elimination. If the Gamecocks win today, they will still be in the winner's bracket, obviously, which means they would play tomorrow. If they lose today, they still play tomorrow. But if they lose tomorrow, they are eliminated. Tomorrow is the end of the double elimination round, basically. So all teams that already have one loss, if you lose tomorrow, you're out for good. If you are a team that doesn't have any losses and you lose tomorrow, you're also still out because there's no consolation past that. The double elimination ends tomorrow. I know it's kind of confusing.
Say that last sentence one more time.
So,
Explain this like I'm 5.
The double elimination round ends tomorrow, right? So I'm looking at the bracket here. South Carolina and LSU are game number 11. So the winner of game 11 goes on to play, actually, no, they transfer into Saturday. That's what it is, Saturday. So they would get a bye tomorrow if they win today. Tomorrow's matchups are between 4 teams that all have one loss already. So that is the end of the the double elimination round. So if you win today, you get tomorrow off and you play on Saturday.
And you re-rack your pitching staff.
You can re-rack your pitching staff because tomorrow will all feature teams that have already lost one game. And then Saturday's semifinals, single elimination, you lose your
Saturday and then Sunday's championship.
Sunday's
obviously.
championship, so yes.
So it's one if you lose this weekend, Saturday or Sunday is over.
Exactly. Saturday begins single elimination again, much like Tuesday was. Tomorrow is the final day of double elimination. So if Carolina loses today, they're playing tomorrow to keep their hopes alive. If they win today, they advance all the way to the first game on Saturday, back to single elimination. So that's what's on the line here. And this is all going to change next year because we're going to 16 teams, and it's going to be all single elimination with the top 4 seeds getting double byes.
Well,
so get ready for that.
Yeah, we'll deal with that when we get there. I feel like.
Yes.
I feel like these tournaments, man, because all the different conferences do it so many different ways too. You'll break your brain if you try to go too far into what happens. Just show up, watch your team.
Just try and win.
Yeah, try to win. So basically, for South Carolina, you've won 2 games.
Yes.
If you win today, that's a third.
Yes.
And then so you need to win 5 games to win the thing.
Correct. 5 wins get you the tournament championship.
Which doesn't sound that daunting. It's 3 more wins, basically.
Yes. And again, if you lose today, you still have a chance to win back tomorrow and get yourself back into the semifinals. You're just playing an additional game to get there. So you're playing to not have to play
Easiest
tomorrow.
path is the
easiest path to having a day off. Again, re-rack your pitching, be a little bit rested, play on Saturday, win there, and then go on to Sunday.
It's right there. It's ahead of them. How do y'all feel?
LSU's hot right now. They are playing really good baseball. And by the way, Brock also weighs in that he hopes the Michael Braswell thing is not another Jermaine Couisnard situation where your former
3
player
homers
just goes off on you. And look, they moved him into the leadoff role, starting with their last series against Ole Miss, and he's been playing great. He's 4 of 9 so far this week, a couple of RBIs, playing really good baseball in addition to what the rest of their lineup is doing. So you're going to have to deal with him today for sure.
That thing's overblown, right? Like, everybody transfers. Like, look at the football schedule this past. Like, you were playing guys who had played on either team multiple times the last few years. Like, it's becoming commonplace to face a guy, who used to be on your team. Shoot, Dalton Reeves went nuclear on his former team earlier this year. So I think it's overblown a little bit. And I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, too. That one little quote everybody's replaying on Twitter right now, I get how it could sound like a shot. I know how these interviews go.
Yeah.
If you're at a new place, just like the South Carolina incoming transfers, if you're at a new place, you're going to say good things about the new place that you're at.
Sure.
It's just how it works.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably is getting overblown a little bit because he said, I wanted to play everyday shortstop at a winning program. And I think the winning program thing was just, hey, I'm getting a chance to play winning shortstop at LSU, which is, even if you hate LSU, they're a winning baseball program. That doesn't mean he was saying – I don't think it means he was saying South Carolina wasn't a winning program, right? Well,
Right.
We all knew – we were following that storyline when Braswell was still at South Carolina, right? The fact that he wasn't the everyday shortstop in all situations. So probably a little bit overblown. We're going to keep hearing, to go back to the storyline about the former players, Couisnard's performance in the NCAA tournament in basketball definitely resurrected that one.
Sure.
But we'll keep hearing it, even if there's a bunch of instances of the opposite, or South Carolina doing some to their former team. The other one is the backup quarterback deal.
Sure.
Even
it always feels like it goes against your team.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And the backup quarterback thing got killed off when South Carolina went to Lexington, Kentucky, 2 seasons ago and faced their backup quarterback, and that went pretty darn well for South Carolina. But, the next time a backup quarterback plays against the game, here we go.
Here goes again.
Heisman. And we have seen some instances of that for sure.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think there's any bad blood between, the guys on the team and Braswell. I don't think they're going to be trying to, hit him when he's up at the plate or anything like that. But again, he's had a good week so far. Definitely going to have to deal with him in addition to other guys in the lineup. Tommy White hit one of the Grand Slams yesterday. By the way, LSU is the first team to ever hit multiple Grand Slams in the SEC tournament, and they did it in the same game. Believe it or not.
They hit 2 in the same game?
Same game. And they run-rolled Kentucky yesterday.
Yeah, but did they have a thing where somebody won $1,000?
I do not know.
Over $1,000.
$1,350 to be exact.
There you go. I'm
sure
so glad that thing finally hit.
In a way, I'm glad it took so long because it kind of took on a life of its own to where you were at the Welcome Home event and people were talking about it. That's good advertising. You know what I mean? Advertise with us, people know your name.
And it's a heck of a prize, too.
Absolutely.
Shout out, I don't remember his name, but shout out to
Phillip.
Phillip, there you go, y'all.
And you say you knew him, right?
Yeah, I think I know Phillip.
Gonna ask him for some money? It's hey, man.
Probably now. We can go have these on it.
Technically, listening to me is the reason why you won the thing, so.
Kentucky is still pouring it on Arkansas, too. Got more runners on base, up 4-0.
Yeah, so Arkansas coming in as the 2 seed is facing elimination here. Down 4-0, bottom of the 5th inning.
It's a good team, man.
See, they've already taken Hagen Smith out. He got his nice little bullpen session in for the week. That'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Halftime show, myself, Terry Ford. Talking more baseball coming up next here on The Game.